Welcome to part 2 of Pay to Play. Now, where would this series be without visiting the premier day ticket water in the country, which is Linear Fisheries? Myself and John have decided to fish on Hardwick. We spent the last couple of hours wandering around the lakes, and the swims that we're most happy with are on the Hardwick side of Hardwick Smiths. We're going into peg 4 and 5. We'll talk a little bit more about what we're going to do and what the plans are once we've got set up and got ourselves out of this abysmal weather. So we've had a quick move this morning. I'll talk you through what happened. We set up on Hardwick Smiths and it felt good for a bite. We put a little bit of bait out. We both threw some zigs out. We had some on the bottom. So we were trying everything to try and get a bite, try and find where the fish were, but nothing happened. Through the night, absolutely zero, not even a bleep. So we woke up this morning nice and early, about 5:30, and we had a little chat and we made the decision to come and have a quick walk around B1, because the nice thing about Linear Fisheries is you're not tied down to a swim. You can literally walk around any of the lakes and move at any given opportunity. Now the gates open at 7:30, so we made a nice early walk and we found the causeway swims between B1 and B2 empty. These are a pair of swims that are together. They command the centre of the lake. Now the whole lake itself is very, very busy, as it is always down here, especially with the amount of rain we've had. There's a lot of areas of the lakes that are closed due to the amount of mud. One side of Manor is pretty much impassable due to the amount of water that has come out of the river and soaked the ground. Now B1 is a slightly different lake to Hardwick Smiths. It's not as up and down. It tends to be quite the same pretty much all over. This swim is no different. We've cast out, we've found some nice firm areas. So the idea is we're going to again work the swim like we did at Hardwick's, trying to get a bite so we can locate where the fish are. We've got one of our adjustable zigs. I'm going to throw that out and see if we can find the fish at a depth. If not, we're going to drop down to the bottom. So let's get on with fishing on B1.
Right there, as Bonesy said, we have moved. Now, at the moment, from what we can understand, B1 is doing a few fish on the bottom, but it seems to be a lot of night activity. So what we decided to do, like what we did over on Hardwick Smiths, was to try the zigs. Now, for me, since joining Trakker and since they came out, I've been using these a lot, the Impact Zig float kits. Now, just 2-3 weekends ago was the Big One show, and I was lucky enough to be on the stand showing the Impact Zig floats. And to be honest with you, 2 days of telling everyone how great they are have really cemented just how great a product they are. Especially in a venue like this where you don't know where those fish are. At the moment, we're not really seeing anything that would lead me to believe they are massively on the zigs. There's certainly not a hatch happening and there's not fish bouncing out everywhere. But with not a lot happening in the day, the old adage of fish the same, catch the same, means that potentially if we stick to the bottom rods, nothing might happen. So I'm going to crack out one of these Impact Zig floats and go very quickly about how to set them up. So essentially, like with any other ones, sort of adjustable zig float, it allows you to fish multiple depths whilst without moving and recasting and chopping down your zig. So what I'm going to do is tie myself a little 3-4 foot hook link, attach it to the top of this, and then give it a punch out onto the spot that I've put my bottom bait rods out. So normally when you're zig fishing, you would fish 3 and sort of work them hard and heavy. But because nothing is happening, I said myself and Chris are going to put out an adjustable each and just see if by moving them up and down in the layers, we can try and pinch some. But enough chatting to you, let's get this tied up and get it out. So now I've got my float out, I want to very quickly just go through how they go together. I couldn't really waste any time really, I wanted to get them out quickly, so I thought I'd show you sort of on a dummy setup. So if you imagine most of the adjustable zigs you've ever used before are exactly the same setup. So you've got a boom with a lead on it that travels up and down the line, and then obviously you've got the float. So all you start off by doing is feeding your main line through the boom swivel, and then at the bottom of the float is a little hole. Feed that all the way through. That then goes through the body of the float, comes out the top, and then you put a cap on the top, and then you've got the little rubber grommet and then a 360 barrel swivel as well. So basically the line feeds all the way through, and that's what gives you that inline setup. Now what sets ours apart from everyone else's is the fact that most of them, when you cast them out, they spin around, they travel, because these are two obviously opposing weights. You've got really heavy lead and a super light sort of float. So what you do with ours is the two little parts of it, the boom and then the internal grommet of that, line up and essentially click together. So now when I'm casting that out, I'm casting out a single unit. And then I said already, this end I've got a 4-foot hook link, and all I'm going to do then is I'll attach a little piece of foam onto the cap of this and then nick that in. Now there is an edge with this, I can add liquids to the cap. The cap takes some liquids, but for the moment I'm literally just going to throw this out as a single. I don't want any attraction. I want this to just look like something sat in the middle of the column of water. So as I say, one's already out, and this very quickly how you set these up. They are dead simple to use, and obviously when this hits the water, this all breaks away. That's the impact part. That'll sink to the bottom, and then by paying line off your spool out into the water, you adjust the float. In turn, by adjusting the float up, you're adjusting your zig up. And that's all I'm going to do is I'm going to set a 20-minute timer on my watch now, and every 20 minutes I've started at the top, so I've literally pulled it down so the hook link is just under the surface, and then every 20 minutes I'm going to pull it down a foot until I come all the way to the bottom of the lake, and then all I'll do is bounce it back up. So that'll give me a couple of hours playing with those zigs up and down the column. Chris is going to do exactly the same next door, and fingers crossed there is a bite to be had. As I say, it's already been a bit of effort packing up early this morning, getting around here. I say we've got one of probably the last swims on the lake, to be honest, but there are fish coming out, so there is always a potential, and that's the beauty with pay to play. We've paid our money, we'll take our choices and we'll take our chances.
Linear fisheries doesn't really need any sort of introduction when it comes to carp fishing. However, one of the questions we got on the first episode of Pay to Play was how much does it cost to fish at the fishery we were at. So we thought in this episode we would cover the cost of coming to fish at Linear. Now Linear actually has two sites. There's the Tar Farm site and there's the Linear Fisheries site. So we're going to cover the Linear Fisheries sites. There's Manor Farm, which goes on the Go Catch app, that's £40 a night for 3 rods. Also Hunt's Corner is booked through the Go Catch app, as well as all of the Tar Farm complex. Now if you want to just turn up and have a wander around, search the lakes, find some fish and fish, then you can choose between St John's, Oxleas, Hardwick Smiths, Brasenose 1 and Brasenose 2, and these are all £33 a night for 3 rods. These lakes hold some incredible fish. B1 for instance has a huge head of fish. There's probably 1,000 fish in this lake and they go up to over £50. B2 next to it has also got a huge head of fish, lots of fish over £40, with the biggest going around the 48 mark. You've then got some really stunning fish. There's a mint massively scaled fish that is over in Hardwick Smiths that goes into the mid-40s. Then looking onto Manor, which is obviously got to be booked through the Go Catch app, you've got fish well over £40. There's fish like Mr. Ridiculous, there's big commons in there, there's just so much to go at. So if you're looking for a carp fishery that really has everything to offer, including a really well stocked on-site tackle shop, then take a look at Linear Fisheries.
Well, that's the last spot of the day. So both myself and Bonesy have put the rods back out, give them another big bit, well I say big, sort of 10-15 spoms each. The crosswind has been phenomenal today. I say the thing with Brasenose 1, there's not an awful lot of features, it's quite uniform as Chris said earlier. So we don't really go too in depth about what we felt and what we've been trying to find, but essentially out there it's uniform, quite clean. but there are some taps of gravel, and that's what we both fished upon, is sort of cast it out 25 wraps and then just felt back. But believe it or not, at 25 wraps, perfectly was a nice seam of gravel. So we're both fishing 25 wraps in a line, sort of 20, 30 yards between us, and then baited that area. So the idea is hopefully we can bounce them back and forth. But you see behind me, the sun is starting to set a lot later than it has been for the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it feels like we are certainly gaining that time and heading into spring. But as I said, a lot of the action has been at night. We have both persevered as well with an adjustable zig each, and every sort of 20 minutes, I'm just up and down it a little bit, as is Chris, with the vain hope of either or any of these rods go in the night. As I say, it's already felt like a bit of a journey to get to this point so far. So we're going to sit down, have something nice to eat. I think we've got some chicken fajitas, and we'll both sit with fingers, legs, toes, ears and noses crossed. But yeah, hopefully next time you see us, we'll have a big bright shining light in one front of one of our faces and a cracking brazen-nosed carp with us. Well, what a way to make my pay-to-play debut. Bit of a busy 5 minutes really. The adjustable zig went off, unfortunately that one fell off. Certainly nothing down to the kit, that's all down to just what it is like playing zigs. Put the rod back out, sat back down, 5 minutes later the rod rips off, and I thought, it's a zig again, but it wasn't, it was the middle rod, the one on the bottom this time. But yeah, I say it's just speaking to Bonesy now, and weird that in 10 minutes they've gone from the zig that was 5-6 foot up to on the bottom very, very quickly. But 25 pounds, 10 ounces of B1 mirror. Rods are back out after a little bit of knit one, pearl one. Rods are back out on the spot, a little bit of bait, and this awesome dude held up for the camera. Right then, take some photos, slip it back, and I need to get back to bed.
2 bites, not too bad.
Yeah, shame the zig one fell off.
Yeah, I was just, after you had that first bite on the zig, I started tying up a few, and it shows how important it is to have, you know, a different range of tactics out there, John. You've had a zig and a couple on the bottom, I've had a zig and a couple on the bottom, the zig went off. So the first thing I've done is I've sat there and started tying up some more zigs, thinking, right, okay, if they get into the bottom of the zig, we're going to move them all over, and then the next thing you know, you have a bite to deck. Yeah. So it can be a bit confusing at times, but now they're on the deck, you feel like we should get some more bites off the deck, shouldn't we? Yeah,
well, I was stuck with the zig on the left hand because I obviously had that bite. But I say it's a 4 or 5 foot zig on the adjustable. Literally, it's pulled all the way down, and I pulled either 1 or 2 feet off. So it's literally, they've gone from there to on the bottom in 10 minutes.
It shows how useful the adjustables are as well, because you know you can do a set zig and not get a bite, but if you hadn't had a bite, you'd just a little bit more line out, you can change that depth, find them. And I really thought we'd found the depth, but then to get a bite off the bottom, it's now a case of keep one on a zig, a couple on the deck now, and just see if we carry on getting bites off the deck. If we get a bite on the zig, then it might be worth changing, but at the minute, I think we're going to have to stick to what we're doing.
Yeah, as I say, 2 bites on 2 tactics in 10 minutes, so fingers crossed for more through the night.
A few more hours of daylight, shows how tired I am. A few more hours of sitting up in the dark and listening. They've also become a lot more active as well. So through the day we saw next to nothing. I don't think I really saw a fish this afternoon, and then all of a sudden as it got dark, you started hearing them crashing. So hopefully they got a bit more active and we're going to get a few more bites.
Bosh.
Last night didn't quite pan out how we'd hoped, did it, John?
No.
Well, he had those 2 fish and we thought, right, okay, this could be kicking off now. So we sat up for quite a long time, seen no head torches on the lake. We could hear fish boshing, but they were definitely much further down than what we're fishing, probably about halfway down the lake, 2/3 of the way down. And we just sort of sat thinking, you know, come on, and it just didn't happen. So we've got up early this morning, we've watched the water for a bit. Again, we haven't seen any fish show now, so they seem to be very active at night, not so much in the daytime. So we've both gone on to pretty much all out zigs now. I've got 3 on zigs, John's got 2 on zigs, and 1 on the deck, just in case. If you get to bite off the deck, then obviously we know to switch back to the deck. And this is where fishing with someone else, you can sort of keep an eye on what's going on. But for now, it's just a waiting game. The weather's still, it's still not, we're not into spring yet, are we? It's at the end of the day, we're mid-March, It is on its way, but that southwesterly yesterday did feel warm, but it switched today, and we're getting more of an easterly, and it's definitely got a little bit of a chill in it. I'm going to have to start putting my jacket on, I think. But we'll see what the day brings, and me and John are loving life as we always are when we're fishing, eh, John? Oh, and I did catch something. It was the bottom of a cigarette packet. So if you buy cigarettes, take your rubbish home. It's not hard to put your rubbish in a little bag when you're fishing and take it home.
Right, as we did last time on Pay to Play, just want to go through very quickly the component bait parts that we're using. Now, what we do is, between myself and Chris, we make up a master mix, and then we split it off and then add our own little component boilies to it. So, very, very simple here. As I say, anyone that's fished linear knows particle water, bits and pieces, and maybe some boilies chucked in. And that's exactly what we've gone with. So, we made up, right at the start, a little mix here, which is just, obviously, as you can see, good old-fashioned hemp and some sweet corn. That makes up probably 60% of our mix. It's carpet feed, it's got colour, it's got loads of attractions, it's got oils in it, everything that's good that carp love. Then on top of that, we add some of this stuff, which is one of my favourites, good old crushed tiger nuts. I don't know what it is on these waters, but I've done super well by adding just a little bit of nut. You don't have to put loads in, and I certainly wouldn't make it the sort of key component of any of my mixes. Then, we've talked about them before, we'll talk about them again. Good old fat, juicy worm. Blend them all up and add sort of 2 or 3 little handfuls into the master mix before we divide it off. But with that, what we do is we make sure we do that fresh every single time. You do not want to chop them worms up and just leave them sat in a bucket. They go minging, they go horrible. I don't know if it puts the carp off, but why risk it? And then that's our sort of master mix. Then I take a little section off, Bonesy takes a section off because we add our own component boilies. And for me, this whole cold weather period has been all about these little gems, little 8mm banana nuts. As you can see, they look like round sweet corn, and whether or not that is why fish seem to like them, I don't know. But all I know is nearly every single fish I've had in this cold weather have been with them in the mix. Over the top, we're using a variety of rigs. We're not going to go massively into depth because this isn't what this session is about. It's not about trying to show you everything we're doing. But from a bait standpoint, on all of the linear waters, I would quite happily say that a good component of mixed particle feed is going to get them going. We have given them quite a lot of bait. Yes, the results have not been as massive as you expect on Brasenose, but looking around and speaking to other anglers, no one's had it off. So we're not shy in saying, yes, we haven't had the greatest of sessions. However, we've had a very good session so far. Fingers crossed going into tonight now. Look, you know, I really want Chris to catch one, and that is hopefully what we've grafted. But as bait goes, a good old bucket of mixed particles is always going to be the key on a fishing session like this. An update, and there's not a lot to update. As you said this morning, it felt like yesterday could have really happened, and it just didn't. And I want to really sort of reflect on it, to be honest, because a lot of people will be watching this now, you know, we're probably like 10-15 minutes into a film, and they're going, Brasenose won, they've had one and lost one. And yeah, it can be tough. These venues aren't always prolific, and you can't always get in the zones where the fish always are. And that's one thing to really take from fishing, from a personal standpoint, is, to me, that one fish means a hell of a lot. I worked for it, moving lakes, working hard to try and make something happen. And no matter how big, no matter how small they are, each and every one means something to me. And yeah, it can be quite romantic, quite poetic, but it does. And for anyone that knows me, that's ever fished on the bank with me, knows how excited I get over quite literally any carp. And the second I lose that, as far as I'm concerned, I've lost the buzz for fishing. You know, it harks back to being a kid and catching a small fish and gradually progressing up. So yeah, especially when you've worked for them, and it's not all doom and gloom at all. You know, we are really working. I've got now 2 on adjustables, bouncing them up and down. Chris has got all 3 on zigs as well. The weather is literally changing every 5 minutes. We've had rain, we've had freezing cold, now the sun's out. Yeah, it's crazy. And that's not always indicative to good fishing conditions with those changing climates and changing sort of temperatures and then rain. And it sounds like a list of excuses, it really does. And I'm not sat here glum at all. If that's all that happens, I'm buzzing. But we have still got another night. So unless anything happens, we'll probably update you just going into evening, because it seems to be everything happening at night. It's that time of year where the nights are still long enough for a lot of activity to happen. There is a group booking now turned up on the bank to my right, and they've taken the whole bank up, so they're causing a lot of commotion. So that could play in favour. A lot of them spawning a long way out into the middle of the lake, right down the lake. So we will see. But certainly I don't want it to be like this is all negative, because it's not. And it is real. Sometimes we all struggle. And yeah, that one fish yesterday was a reward. It really did feel like a reward. So as we head into the second evening on here, if anything happens, obviously we'll update you. But if not, we will see what happens through the night. Fish number 2, bite number 3, a 26-pound chunky framed common. Yet again, that middle rod, the one on the end of the spot. So I'm wondering if the bait with the undertow is blowing more over that spot. Who knows? And quite frankly, who cares? Yeah, I'm still persevering with the zig, bouncing up and down. Nothing on that yet, but a couple off the bottom. It's kind of saved it for me, really. But yeah, a bit of a palaver. Left my torch on the floor as I ran out of the bivvy, and with the rain it turned into a slip slope. So I was trying to slip slope up and down the bank to find my head torch. Couldn't get it. So I ended up just netting it in the dark and then shouting at Bonesy. But yeah, what an awesome fish. Right then, slip it back. And because of the way I set my rods up, I've got loads of room to try and put this down the middle of them. But yeah, absolutely buzzing.
Finally, I've got my first fish. It's been a tough old trip, but me and John have so much fun doing these, and we're really enjoying starting this little series with you. So here it is, 34-pound, 10 ounce of B1 mirror. You know, that first night when John had a couple of bites, I really did think, here we go, we'll get a few now, and it just didn't seem to materialise. The fish weren't showing at all in the day. We never saw any shows really through the day, and then at night we could hear them much further down the lake. But I'm so pleased to have finally got a bite. We tried everything yesterday, but finally this morning, my rods rattled off, and I finally got a B1 mirror. Happy days on Pay to Play. So there we go, there's an end to part 2 of Pay to Play. We've had good fun, haven't we, John? Yeah, fun. It's been stressful, it has been testing, but I said, to be honest with you, as of yesterday afternoon, we didn't know if we were going to have a film. No. But I said, it would have been easy for us to have hidden behind 1 or 2 bites, but at the end of the day, this is all about 2 blokes coming fishing, having fun. Just enjoying ourselves, isn't it? I mean, it wasn't, you know, a lot of, you'll see other videos on linear and things and people bagging up, but you've got to remember, we're fishing this normally. We are turning up, we are walking around. This lake is very, very busy. These are the only 2 swims we could get on the lake pretty much. There was a couple available, but we'd have only got 12 hours in them. So we dropped into these pegs and we've worked it, and I think we've done well to get a couple of bites out of it. You know, it's been blowing a southwesterly that blows down to the other end of the lake. You know, warm winds this time of year, you'd expect the fish to follow. We could hear them at night. They didn't show in the day to give us any ideas, did they? It was just hard work, but we've loved it, as we always do. And these are going to keep going, and we're going to keep going to venues. And I don't know where we're going to go next. We need some suggestions. Give us some suggestions of where to go.
Yes, very much so. But as I said, that's all part of pay to play. It is having fun. Hopefully you pick up some bits and pieces of what we've been up to. But for now, before this rain cloud over the top of us empties itself, we're off.